Hello, greetings and welcome to you all. Thank you so much for joining us for the recording of Leaving a Footprint in the Future, the impact of planned gifts on neighbours in need around the world, a virtual event for you. I'm Lee Grant, Plan Giving Manager here at Lutheran World Relief, part of the Chorus International family of change makers, where our collective vision is for a healthy world flourishing with dignity and justice. We aim to urgently break the cycle of poverty and provide sustainable resolutions to end hunger and suffering for the world's most vulnerable. It's with your generosity that we can achieve this vision. And today you'll learn which planned giving vehicles are best for you and the impact of your kindness and compassion in creating enduring change for our neighbours that need it most. Those that pledge a planned gift to Lutheran World Relief are entered into a unique and exclusive society known as the Partners in Lasting Promise, and in return will receive regular programme and impact updates. You'll find out more throughout the presentation. We have a geographically spread team supporting the event, with myself in London, England, my colleagues Nikki and Hannah in Maryland providing the tech support, and speakers from the US and also Peru. We have two speakers. The first up is Cindy Aegeter, Senior Gift Planner at Thrivent Charitable Impact and Investing, who will share some of the most tax-effective and thought-provoking ways to share your love and kindness with those that need it most. Second, we have Jorge Huapaya, who will be assisted in translation by Yesibeth Centeno. Jorge will speak first, and then Yesibeth will translate for our English-speaking audience. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Cindy, who will talk us through her presentation and answer your questions on the most impactful ways to plan future gifts to neighbours in need. Over to you, Cindy.
Thank you so much, Lee. I'm so honored to be here today and so excited to share how planned giving allows for us to invest in the future of organizations and causes important to our hearts, such as LWR. Thrivent Charitable Impact and Investing, which some of you may be familiar with under our old names, Lutheran Community Foundation or In Faith Community Foundation, partners with LWR and their development team to provide planned giving products and services to their supporters. At Thrivent Charitable, we believe humanity thrives when people make the most of all that they've been given. And Thrivent Charitable helps you do just that by bringing your generosity to life. Grounded in the Christian tradition of serving others, we take a holistic, personalized approach to help you create strategic charitable plans and give in a way that best reflects your values and financial priorities, so that throughout our community and by God's grace, we will achieve effective, positive, and lasting change. Let's start with some of the ways people express their generosity. Spontaneous giving is typically spur of the moment, and donations are often smaller. Examples might include responding to the latest disaster relief efforts, or perhaps a request from a neighborhood kid who knocks on your door to fundraise for a scout troop or a school project. Intentional giving includes donations made on a regular basis, such as weekly giving to your church or annual giving to organizations like your college or other groups that you give to on a regular basis and budget for. Whereas planned giving is part of an overall financial or estate strategy. Now, often people assume that this means giving through a will, and that's certainly a popular way to make a planned gift, but it's not the only way. There are actually a number of strategic ways to make a planned gift, from a gift of a life insurance to making a beneficiary designation. You can even gift your home, farm, or vacation property, get a tax deduction, and retain the use of it for the rest of your life. At Thrivent Charitable, we call these gifts where the donor outlines their intentions for the charity, but retains control of the asset for the rest of their life, give later gifts. These gifts are especially popular with those who may wish to endow an amount at death that, when invested, will replace an annual amount that they provided during their lifetime. Thrivent Charitable has over 100 charitable funds in which donors have designated LWR to receive ongoing grants from Give Later gifts. In one example, the family explained, "We give about $5,000 a year to LWR, and it's important to us that that stream of income continue to the organization after we're gone." So Thrivent Charitable worked out a plan with them to create a gift of life insurance with a death benefit of about $100,000 that they gifted to a charitable fund, which upon their passing will be invested in the fund and grant out 5% of the fund's value every year to LWR, which will continue their family's gifts far into the future. There are essentially 4 ways a person's assets can be distributed upon their death. By default, according to the state law, by will, by beneficiary designation, or by a living trust. Now, if someone dies without a valid will, state law will determine how their assets are distributed. Significantly, no provision for charity exists under the laws of any state, even if the decedent made substantial charitable contributions during their lifetime. If a person dies with a valid will, then their assets will be distributed according to the terms of the will. But either way, the person's estate is subject to probate. Now, regardless whether a person dies having executed a valid will, certain assets can be distributed without having to go through probate, according to written instructions furnished by the person via a beneficiary designation. For instance, on a retirement plan, a bank account, a life insurance policy, or an annuity. However, if no such instructions have been furnished by the person, then the asset will become part of the probate process. Now, assets placed in a revocable living trust pass directly to the beneficiaries and don't have to go through a probate process. This is one of the advantages of this type of estate vehicle: privacy and efficiency. Now, traditionally, the word bequest referred specifically to gifts made through a person's will. But today, that term is understood to encompass distributions made from these revocable living trusts as well. There are 4 types of bequests through a will or living trust. You can give a specific dollar amount. You can give a specific asset, such as your home or a savings bond. You can give the remainder of a percentage of your estate or a percentage of your estate to the charity after other specific gifts to heirs. Or you can make a contingent gift. For instance, if your spouse or other family members do not survive you. So with all of these options, is it better to leave a specific asset, a percentage of your estate, or the residual after other gifts? Well, of course, it's entirely up to you and your goals, but there are some factors to keep in mind. For instance, at Thrivent Charitable, we have some donors who wish to leave us their home because they don't want out-of-state children to have to deal with selling it, and they know that we do deal with real estate fairly frequently. However, there are minimums that many charities have in terms of dealing with real estate and other real assets that would have to be met. And keep in mind that it can take quite a lot of time and effort in order to sell the asset and get the proceeds before it can be used for the charity's mission. Another thing to keep in mind As you consider whether a specific dollar amount versus a percentage gift would be best, remember that inflation may impact the support to the charity's mission a specific dollar amount would offer. If you want to ensure that your gift has the same purchase power in the future as it does today, you may wish to leave a percentage of your estate that represents the amount you have in mind in today's dollars. Many of our donors like the idea of tithing what they leave to charity, a goal they may not have been able to achieve during lifetime. However, keep in mind that if they just put a 10% distribution in their will, without thinking about the value of assets passing outside their will through other means, such as beneficiary designations, they may be shortchanging that goal. Americans hold a large portion of their wealth in retirement plans, and these tax-deferred retirement assets are typically passed on through a beneficiary designation, which trumps the will. So these assets would never be counted in a 10% bequest to charity. Sometimes the simplest way to create a give later gift is through a beneficiary designation. You don't have to hire an attorney to draft a legal document. You just simply update the beneficiary designation form on your retirement account, annuity, or life insurance. With a beneficiary designation, you can designate church or charity to receive the entire asset or a percentage of the asset. Now, this is how I'm executing my own plan. I'm single, I don't have any kids of my own, but I have 4 nieces and a nephew. However, instead of dividing my estate 5 ways, I've added a 6th beneficiary called charity. But of course, it's not as simple as dividing each asset 6 ways. Sometimes my job is to help families determine what's the best asset to leave to family and what's the best asset to leave to church or charity. For instance, they might have a life insurance contract that they took out when their children were young, but now their kids are grown and on their own, and they no longer need that life insurance for protection. So they think, well, we'll just leave that life insurance contract to charity. But meanwhile, they also have retirement accounts that they have their kids named as the beneficiary on, either forgetting or not realizing that those accounts will be taxable to their heirs at their own income tax rates, whereas the life insurance death benefit could go to the kids tax-free. So they just need a little guidance on which asset to leave to charity and which assets to leave to heirs. For instance, income that was owed to a deceased person at the time he or she died is considered income in respect of a decedent, or IRD. While heirs receive most assets of the estate income tax-free, items that are considered IRD assets are generally taxed at the beneficiary's ordinary income tax rates, making these the more attractive assets to gift to charity rather than leave to heirs. So we talked about some give later gifts. Now let's take a look at the category of planned gifts that we at Thrivent Charitable like to call give and receive gifts. With these gifts, the donor makes a gift and in return receives an income for life or for a term of years. There are 2 types of tools that we can use to create a gift that provide a stream of income to the donor or other people they name, either a charitable remainder trust or a charitable gift annuity. Now, depending on the asset that you want to give, a liquid asset such as cash or publicly traded securities, or an illiquid asset such as real estate, farm machinery, or other types of assets, and the type of income that you want, fixed income or variable income, immediate or deferred, we can match that income with the right vehicle. And then in both cases, the donor receives an income tax deduction for the charitable portion of the gift, and whatever is left at the termination of the trust or the gift annuity goes to the charity. Let's look at an example of a charitable gift annuity. I recently worked with a donor who had some cash on hand that was just sitting in a savings account and not really working for her. She didn't need the principal to live on, but she did like the idea of receiving some extra fixed income. Based on the American Council of Gift Annuities recommended rate for her age of 80, the gift annuity would pay her 7% of the gift every year for the rest of her life. So if she gifted $20,000, she'd get an annual payment of $1,400 every year for the rest of her life. And a large portion of that $1,400, about $1,100 of it, would be tax-free income to her. In addition, in the year of the gift, she would get a tax deduction of $10,042, assuming she itemizes. Then, upon her passing, the remainder of the gift annuity would provide support to LWR. Now, donors often use these types of give and receive gifts to add to their retirement income. A few years ago, I worked with a couple who wanted to retire from farming. They had 2 grown children, neither of which wanted to take over the family farm. However, they were concerned about selling the property because the value of the farmland had increased greatly since the time they had inherited it from his father. And they didn't want to have to pay that large capital gain tax bill. So instead, we worked with the family to gift the farmland into a charitable remainder unit trust. They got a tax deduction for making the gift of the land into the trust. And then once the land was inside the trust, we were able to sell it in the trust tax-free. So they avoided the capital gain. And then the proceeds from the sale were invested inside the trust, providing them a stream of income for the rest of their joint lives, helping to supplement their retirement. And because that income was more than they would have gotten if they would have just leased the land during their retirement, they were able to use that extra income to buy life insurance, basically to replace the value of the land for their children. So no one was disinherited. And at their passing, their charities, including LWR, will receive a gift from the remainder of the trust that would not have existed if they had simply left the land to their children to sell. So it was a great gift all around. They got extra income in retirement, the kids weren't disinherited, and their charities got a gift that wouldn't have been there otherwise. What a great planning vehicle. So I want to thank you for listening. I hope that these examples have inspired you to think about how you can create a lasting promise for the churches and charities closest to your hearts. With that, I'm happy to open it up for questions.
Thanks, Cindy. We've got 3 questions from the audience today, and let me see. The first one is, how can I help to further the work of the program with not a lot of money to share?
Well, a couple of things. We talked about residual or contingent bequests. You can use those options in a way that can provide for family first and leave something for charity after ensuring that the family has been provided for. And then also, as you've seen from those examples that I just shared about gift annuities and trusts, there are ways that you can make a gift and provide income for yourself, which makes making a gift much more affordable. So if you have some assets set aside that might be of use for providing that stream of income, then that can also make giving a way to make a gift much more affordable.
That's really helpful. Thank you. So next, the question is, how can I set up my will so that my church keeps getting the things that they should? Yeah,
one thing to keep in mind is whether your church would appreciate a stream of income from an endowed charitable fund rather than a single lump sum from your will. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there are a number of individuals who set up funds with us here at Thrivent Charitable so that their church and other charities will receive an ongoing income stream. There are a number of organizations that would appreciate that ongoing income to continue from donors that have supported them in that way during their lifetimes after they're gone. So that might be something that you would want to consider, is setting up a fund that would pay out over time rather than just a lump sum.
That's great. Thank you. So the final question I can see, how can I leave a legacy to others? Is a dollar amount or a percentage share best?
Yeah, as we discussed earlier, if you want to ensure that the purchase power of your gift is the same in the future as the amount that you're intending to give today, you might be better off expressing the amount in terms of a percentage of your estate that represents the value of that amount in today's dollars that you want to gift.
Thank you. That's really, really good advice. So that's all the questions we've had in the session today, but feel free to reach out to Cindy or myself afterwards for any further information or clarification. Our contact details will be shown at the end of this recording. Thank you again, Cindy, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
We're now going to move on to session 2. So this is something a little bit special for you all. It's a story of Lutheran World Relief's impact in a specific area of Peru. Funded with the assistance of Gifts in Wills and other planned gifts, our program in the region has spanned over a decade and provided monumental change to our neighbours there, as you will see. In this section, we're going to play a video from the region and then an interview pre-recorded with Jorge Huapaya, and Yesibeth Centeno will do the translation. They both joined us today to answer your questions afterwards. In the introduction, Jorge speaks first for a little while, and then Yesibeth will translate into English. So just listen out for that. I won't delay this any further, so we'll now hand over to the recording.
Hola. Mi nombre es Jorge Huapaya, gerente del programa en el Perú de Lutheran World Relief. Hoy me gustaría compartir con ustedes un video que tiene una duración de aproximadamente 9 minutos, destacando nuestro increíble viaje a Castrovirreyna, Perú. Y después de eso, compartiré con ustedes cómo el amor de Dios llega a las personas más necesitadas de la región gracias a vuestra misericordia.
Hello, my name is Jorge Huapaya, Program Manager Peru for Lutheran World Relief. I would like to share with you today a video which is about 9 minutes in length, highlighting our amazing journey in Castrovirreyna, Peru. And after that, I will share with you how God's love is extended to our neighbors there through your compassion.
La población de acá combina un clima extremo con el abandono de parte del Estado, ¿no? Y eso ha generado que esta sea una de las zonas con mayor pobreza en todo el Perú, es una de las zonas emblemáticas, y eso significa que son bajos ingresos, pero también problemas sociales, problemas de salud, mortalidad infantil, desnutrición crónica.
Mi nombre es Irene Flores, yo soy la directora de CEDINCO, que significa Centro de Desarrollo Integral de Comunidades. Soy de Castrovirreyna. Cuando empezamos a trabajar aquí como CEDINCO no había carretera, veníamos de Castrovirreyna a pie o en caballos.
Hace mucho frío, ¿no? Hay muchas lluvias, derrumbes, deslizamientos, interrupciones viales, y eso desalienta a que, por ejemplo, vengan médicos, ingenieros, arquitectos, economistas, profesores. Cuando nosotros llegamos acá en el 2011, tenían 2 años de sequía, no tenían semillas, no tenían animales, no tenían herramientas, equipos. Realmente la economía estaba destruida. Y entonces tuvimos que diseñar un primer proyecto de emergencia para traer semillas, traer animales menores, reproductores, de manera lenta pero firme. Apoyamos la reconstrucción de la economía local, ¿no? Sobre todo de nutrición infantil, que era la que más nos preocupa, porque anula, digamos, su desarrollo cerebral.
Nosotros sabemos que la anemia es un déficit de hierro. Al no haber esto, hace que estos pobres niños asisten a las instituciones educativas y no puedan asimilar bien lo que es la educación. Ahora, nosotros sabemos que la anemia es a corto plazo y a largo plazo la anemia hace un déficit también pues, del estudio, también trae problemas con ellos, ¿no? Como es la desnutrición. Niños con anemia, niños en pocas palabras sin futuro.
Entonces, nosotros estuvimos muy enfocados en promover otros alimentos, diversificar otros alimentos que no conocían, y se pudo agregar a la dieta alimentaria entre 10 y 15 tipos de alimentos nuevos.
El trabajo que estamos haciendo no solamente llega a una producción para autoabastecimiento, ¿no? Sino también para generar excedentes, llevarlos al mercado para que sean vendidos e incrementar sus ingresos, de modo que ellos pueden comprar otros productos que aquí no lo producen. Aún hay mucho por hacer, pero hay avances, hay logros.
Por eso es que desde Lutheran World Relief hemos escogido esta zona para trabajar, ¿no? Donde la gente más los necesite, donde las condiciones de trabajo sean más difíciles, y aquí estamos, ¿no? Hace 10 años que estamos acá, estamos luchando. Castrovirreyna es una zona bastante pobre, pero también tiene muchas riquezas. Y eso es lo que nos hace abrir la esperanza de un futuro mejor para Castrovirreyna.
Yo me llamo Daisy Milagros Canales Machuca. Tengo 10 años. Me gusta este campo porque es bonito. Mi familia son buenos, cariñosos, que me aman, que me quieren. Porque cuando estás sola estás triste, y cuando yo estoy con mi familia tenés alegre. Mi familia se dedica a sembrar papa.
Bueno, mi nombre es Daisy Milagros Canales Machuca. Ahorita estoy en el lugar que se llama Cocha. Mi pareja ahorita no está porque está trabajando en Chincha. Y pronto me voy a ir a vivir con él ya. Me conocí con él así en el colegio. Tuvimos nuestra hija y ella es nuestra bendición. Alicia se llama. Me motiva, ¿no? O sea, me trazo una meta y digo que sí. Cuando no, o sea, a veces no lo puedo y digo, pero ¿por qué no puedo si estoy estudiando la carrera para ser profesora de tutoría y también auxiliares de colegio? Y voy a estudiar en Chincha, enfermería técnica del mes de agosto. No voy a estar al lado de mis papás porque mis papás siempre me apoyan, pero en cambio ahora me voy, o sea, yo ya voy a pensar por cómo sustentarme.
Mi nombre es Carlos Alberto Canales Ayoque, soy natural de acá de Cocha, especialmente me he acariñado con Lutheran World. Vengo trabajando desde el primer proyecto, que cualquier cosa estamos para apoyar nosotros como padres. Por ejemplo, a Daisy, a mi nieta, a mi hijo, a todos y a mucha gente de la población estamos para apoyar.
Tenemos cuyes y también chanchos. Recién en mayo va a salir la cosecha de papas, en junio de cebada. Pero como mi papá está mal de salud, no va a poder hacerlo por este año. Vamos a buscar peones así para que lo puedan ayudar.
Gracias a Dios, Dios todavía nos da la vida para poder estar acá en la tierra y para poder compartir con los demás y para poder trabajar para nuestra comunidad y así también para la familia. Sigamos adelante hacia el futuro para dar un buen ejemplo a los hijos y también a Daisy, a los nietos, los que vienen desde abajo arriba.
Que sea muy feliz al lado de sus padres, que sea responsable, amable, que tenga cariño con todos, o sea, con toda la humanidad.
Entonces yo quiero desearte toda la suerte del mundo, que Dios te bendiga, te ilumine, te acompañe a cumplir cada una de tus metas, ¿no?
Como que sea mi familia, en mi corazón lo llevo siempre.
Sí, esto no es un proyecto, es una relación de vida, ¿no?
Después de haber visto el video en Castrovirreyna, me gustaría compartir mi inmensa gratitud con ustedes, los donantes de Lutheran World Relief, por todo lo que hacen para ayudar a las personas más necesitadas en todo el mundo, en particular a aquellos a los que he tenido la oportunidad de servir en mi país, el Perú.
Following on from the video in Castrovirreyna, I would like to share my immense gratitude to you, the supporters of Lutheran World Relief, for all that you do to help our neighbors around the world, particularly those I have served in my country, Peru.
Ustedes comparten su amor de muchas maneras diferentes. El confort físico que brindan los edredones y los kits, la generosidad constante que demuestran a través de sus donaciones, tanto en tiempos de emergencias como en el apoyo a largo plazo, las oraciones que ofrecen a nuestros vecinos necesitados. Ustedes son para nosotros el testimonio vivo de la presencia de Dios en el mundo.
You share your love in so many different ways. The physical comfort brought by the gifts and kits that you make, the consistent generosity you demonstrate through your gift, both during time of crisis, emergency, and longer-term support. The prayers you offer to our neighbors in need. You are an extension and testimony of the presence and love of God around the world.
Tu apoyo, sin importar cuán grande o pequeño sea, ayuda a crear un mundo mejor para nuestros vecinos. Un mundo con el que todos soñamos, libre de la pobreza, de sufrimiento e injusticia. Les agradezco desde el fondo de mi corazón por vuestra amabilidad, por ser un servidor de la luz de Dios y por unirse a nosotros hoy.
Your support, no matter how big or small, helps create a better world for our neighbors, a world we all dream of together, one free from poverty, suffering, and injustice. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your kindness, for being a steward of God's light, and for joining us today.
Quiero hablar brevemente sobre la transformación radical que he presenciado en comunidades como Castrovirreyna gracias a las donaciones en testamentos y donaciones planificadas.
I want to speak briefly about the radical transformation I have witnessed in communities like Castro Virreina, because of gift in wills and planned gift.
Las donaciones planificadas financian alrededor del 20% de nuestros proyectos cada año. Debido a estos obsequios llenos de compasión, gracias a los donantes que han prometido un obsequio en su testamento, los Daisy del mundo entero tienen la oportunidad de vivir una vida plena, no solo de sobrevivir, sino incluso de prosperar. He visto de primera mano cómo han florecido estas comunidades, cómo los sueños que alguna vez fueron inimaginables son superados y reemplazados por sueños cada vez más grandes. Los donativos patrimoniales no solo están cambiando la vida de las generaciones actuales, sino también el de muchas generaciones futuras.
Planned gift fund around 20% of our projects each year. Because of this compassionate gift, because of donors who have pledged a gift in their wills, the daisies of the world have a chance of a full life, not just surviving life despite the hardship, but thriving. I have seen firsthand how these communities have blossomed, how dreams that once were unimaginable are outgrown, replaced by bigger and bigger dreams. State gifts are not just changing the life of current generation, but for many generations yet to come.
Me siento muy orgulloso de lo que se ha logrado en Castro Virreina, particularmente la reducción de los altísimos índices de desnutrición infantil y el aumento de las oportunidades educativas. Estos son los cimientos sólidos a partir de los cuales florecen los niños. Gracias a nuestros donantes, Daisy no enfrentará la misma angustia que sus padres alguna vez sufrieron por ella. Daisy, sus hijos y los hijos de sus hijos podrán crecer y prosperar en el futuro.
I have great pride in what has been achieved in Castro Virreina, particularly reducing the devastating childhood malnutrition rates and increasing education opportunities. These are the strong foundation from which children flourish. Because of our donors, Daisy will not face the same headache her parents once had for her own daughter. Daisy and her children will grow and prosper far into the future.
A pesar del éxito obtenido, aún queda mucho por hacer. Hay innumerables comunidades y familias que todavía necesitan el amor compasivo de los siervos de Dios para ayudarlos en sus horas más oscuras.
As much success as there has been, there is still much more to do. There are countless communities and families that still need the compassionate love of God's stewards to help them in their darkest hour.
Nada de esto es posible sin sus donaciones y promesas futuras, como las donaciones en testamento que recibimos.
This is not possible without your gift and future pledges like the gift in wills we receive.
Ahora me gustaría escucharles, conocer sus preguntas e inquietudes sobre el trabajo que seguimos realizando en la región. Gracias por vuestro amor, generosidad y compasión para las personas más necesitadas. Muchas gracias.
I would now like to hear from you, your questions for us, and the work that we continue to deliver in the region. Thanks for your love, generosity, and compassion for our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you both. That was wonderful. So we've had 4 questions, I think, sent in advance. So I will share the first now. So I'm going to share the question with you, Yesibeth, if you can translate and then translate back the response from Jorge, that would be wonderful. So the question from Helen is, being a Spanish teacher, I'd like to learn about the impact of our support in Peru. And I think that's perhaps the wider Peru. So back to you both.
Thank you, Lee. Jorge, La pregunta que nos hace Helen. Siendo maestra de español, me gustaría conocer el impacto que nuestro apoyo ha logrado en el Perú. ¿Qué nos puedes contestar al respecto?
Muchas gracias a todos por escucharnos. Las donaciones que hemos recibido han servido para atender situaciones de emergencias, para aliviar el sufrimiento frente a desastres naturales y también humanos, y también han servido para mejorar vidas, los medios de vida en el largo plazo.
Gracias, Jorge. Thank you for all your listening to us. The donation we have received have served to address emergency situations, alleviate suffering in the face of natural and human disasters, and to improve livelihood in the long term.
Thank you. Next question. Because we can see Catravenia, the region is beginning to prosper after a decade of Lutheran World Release work there. Is it likely that this community will grow in the future and children will stay and work there rather than move away as they have in the past?
Thank you, Lee. Jorge, la siguiente pregunta. Debido a que estamos viendo que en la región, en Castrovirreyna, ha comenzado a prosperar después de una década del trabajo de Lutheran World Relief, es probable que estos niños, ¿verdad? Que están en la región se mantengan en la zona y se queden ahí trabajando y se sigan desarrollando.
Así es, Yesibeth. Gracias a que se han fortalecido los medios de vida, ahora los niños que se vuelven mayores pueden permanecer en la comunidad porque ahora tienen los medios de vida para poder obtener los ingresos y sobrevivir y prosperar dentro de su propia comunidad, algo que no podían hacer antes.
Jorge responds, thanks, that's right. Because livelihood has been strengthened, children who grow up can now stay in the community because they have the means to earn an income and thrive in their own community, something they could not do before.
Thank you. What are the future needs for this village and what are the plans to make the region fully sustainable?
Jorge, ¿cuáles son los planes futuros para la región y qué actividades o qué planes, cuáles son las necesidades que se están visualizando que va a haber a futuro en la región y cuáles son los planes que estamos visualizando para llevar a cabo?
La principal necesidad es el fortalecimiento de los medios de vida de las familias. Y los planes que tenemos para el futuro es fortalecer la producción de alimentos y los nuevos ingresos. En particular, la gestión sostenible del agua.
¿Me puedes repetir, por favor, lo del agua?
Sí, la gestión sostenible del agua para riego y para consumo humano.
The main need is to strengthen the livelihood of families. Our future plans are to strengthen food production and new income, especially sustainable water management for irrigation and human consumption.
Thank you. I've got one of the pre-submitted questions, which is, what is the greatest need in other areas of Peru now and into the future? And will you need more funding?
Jorge, la siguiente pregunta es, ¿cuáles son ¿cuál es la mayor necesidad que se ha detectado en otras áreas en Perú ahora y a futuro? ¿Y habrá necesidad de mayor financiamiento para poder superar esas necesidades?
Así es. En muchas familias, en miles de familias, todavía persiste el hambre y las necesidades básicas de subsistencia. Por eso es que proponemos continuar trabajando con base en la experiencia que ya tenemos en el fortalecimiento de los medios de vida, la producción de alimentos y los nuevos ingresos para las familias.
Gracias, Jorge. That's right. In many families, in thousands of families, they have hunger and basic subsistence needs still. The hungers and basic subsistence needs still persist. That's why we propose to continue working on livelihood development to guarantee livelihood incomes, to improve their family ways of life in their communities. This is something that happens in Castro Virreyna, but also in other regions in Peru.
That's great. Thank you for answering that. So we've got one last question that's come through today. How do you see, and this is in the chat actually, Yesibeth, so if you want to see the exact wording, how do you see the program in Castro Virreyna illustrating the philosophy of accompaniment as opposed to a gift from a benefactor?
Thank you, Lee. Jorge, ¿cómo ves o cómo crees que el programa de Castro Virreyna ilustra, demuestra la filosofía de acompañamiento que tenemos en oposición a lo que es un regalo de un benefactor?
Creo que la experiencia de Castro Virreyna es un excelente ejemplo de cómo es que Lutheran World Relief viene cumpliendo con su misión de ayudar a los más necesitados. Luego un segundo párrafo, por favor.
Okay. I believe that the experience of Castro Virreyna is an excellent example of how Lutheran World Relief have been fulfilling its mission to help those most in need. Jorge continues.
Castro Virreyna es el mejor ejemplo de cómo es que las donaciones ayudan a transformar vidas. No solamente se tratan de proyectos, sino de cambios definitivos de vida.
Castro Virreyna is the best example of how donation helped to transform life, not only through projects, but also through definitive changes in life. Do you want to add something? ¿Quieres agregar algo más, Jorge?
Sí,
Okay.
por favor.
Continue.
Por eso estamos muy agradecidos con las donaciones, ¿no?, que son vitales para continuar haciendo nuestro trabajo en Castro Virreyna y en otros lugares del Perú también.
Very grateful for the donation that are vital to continue our work in Castro Virreyna and other regions of Peru. Lee, back to you.
That's wonderful. Thank you both for answering those questions. Really, really appreciate it. So if there are subsequent questions, you can reach out to me. I do hope you've enjoyed today's event and that you now have a good overview of how vital planned gifts and gifts in wills are to the success of our vision here at Lutheran World Relief. The message came through loud and clear. Almost a quarter of our projects are funded through the generosity of planned gifts, and we're calling upon you to pledge now, join the partners in Lasting Promise Society, and assist future generations of forsaken neighbours. And if I can ask you all, please, to share your appreciation in time-honoured fashion with a virtual clap for our speakers, Cindy Aegeter, Jorge Huapaya, and Yesibeth Centeno. Thank you. Finally, you will be sent a link to a feedback survey. Hopefully, I can pop it in the chat box too. And please follow that link and answer the there's just 7 questions, but answer those to help us continue to improve our events. And thank you all. This has been a really special place to be. I hope that you agree. I feel blessed to be with you all today. And that concludes our event. And I look forward to seeing you next time or for hearing from you directly. So thank you all.